Welcome back. I'm Charlie. This is VW Baja Bug, and today we're going to rebuild a 1963 VDO Volkswagen Speedometer. Two things before I start. I have already taken this apart because I did a Speedo before when I originally bought my car, but it was not the same as this. So I wanted to see what the differences were, and there were some differences. This is 10 years older. Yeah, mine's a 73. I don't know if you can see that on the top right. It says 12 of 63. She's a 90-mile-an-hour Speedo. And while I was in there the first time, I did the hard part of rolling back the speedometer, and I'll show you how to do that once I have this open. So let's get to it. You're going to need a few tools. This pick with the 90-degree angle on it was very useful for getting this faceplate off. I'll show you that in a second. A couple different size straight screwdrivers for the multiple different sizes that are in here. You're going to need a pair of needle nose. I got some fluorescent paint, so I can paint this when this is all apart because that's very yellowed. I tried washing it with soap and water and it did not come clean. So we're going to paint that needle. Alright, first things first. Let's use our medium screwdriver to take these off. This holds your warning bulbs and your directional bulbs. As you can see, the bulbs are in there. They come out like so. A brass wire brush to clean these off. See, it comes pretty clean, pretty fast. We'll put this back in here for now. Leave it with the screws. We'll do all the cleaning later. So our larger flat screwdriver, we're going to take these off. Keep all your screws together. I don't know if I'm going to paint this housing or not. I think I'm just going to leave it. It's pretty clean. It's got a little bit of white stuff going on there, but it is what it is. These bulbs can also come out. Be careful when you pull these. Kind of give them a twist because they get stuck. And then they're real hard to get out. You can see there's a little bit of white corrosion in there. Alright, so we got our two back screws off, we got our lights out, we got the housing for the directionals, and the warning lights out. Now here's the part where you got to be really gentle. What I did is I pried this corner up just a little bit, and I got this in here, and I worked it for about 15 minutes until this faceplate popped off. And you can see I already got it pretty much. It still kind of pops on tight, but there we go. And there's all the gels coming out. That's pretty bad. That needs to be sanded and painted. So we'll put that off. Well, we'll leave that for there. There is a rubber O-ring that goes on your glass on the inside. This is a very skinny O-ring on the inside than your glass, then a thicker O-ring on the outside. And wait, there's more. There's another O-ring inside this channel. I'm going to leave that in there. I don't want to mess with it. That was a useful tool to get that faceplate off without ruining it. I've seen people pry it with a screwdriver and just destroy the back of this and bend it all up. All I did was bend that little corner right there, and I used that pick and kept kind of running it down, and this kind of stretched that aluminum out a little bit. So now when I'm done, all I got to kind of do is squeeze it back together on here, onto this lip, then she won't come off. I know it's behind the dash, you're not going to see it, but I'm trying not to ruin it. This is going to be a challenging part. It depends on how weathered your speedometer is. On my original 73, it was sketchy getting this needle off of here. But on this VDO, you just kind of pinch this and pull, and it'll come off. This one came off really easy. I was happy about that. So this one is going out of the way. Very brittle, that little thing is. So on this Speedo, when I took it apart the first time, I could not get this little brass thing off of here, this little washer. So I had to leave the faceplate on, and I'm not going to mess with it because I don't want to bend nothing, break nothing. I'm going to take these little screws out on the faceplate here. There's your two tiny screws. Do not put any brake cleaner, carb cleaner, any harsh detergents or anything on here because it'll just rub this paint right off of here. Ask me how I know. So next thing I got to tell you about is this right here. This light, and I think it's blue, and I think that's your high beam. There is a tube that goes from this light bulb all the way. There's a tube that comes off that goes all the way down and backs behind this light so that the light stays right on that. Start working this speedometer out of here. And there you go. There's your housing. There's where the tube connects on the back of the housing. Pretty clean in there. Happy about that. The outside needs a little work. So this kind of flops around, and it does get in your way, and you have to be very mindful of that little stop right there. Can you see that? Yeah. That little stop right there for the needle. Do not break that. These two little tabs right here and right here are twisted to hold this part of the Speedo on to your dials here. So we're going to take the needle nose and gently but firmly twist them so they're straight like that, so they line up. As you can see, that one's still bent. We're going to twist it back. A little bit more. Alright, now when this comes apart, this little gear here is going to come out. It's already starting to pop out. Oh, it did pop out. There we go. Take note of which way that goes. The flat gears go up here, the rounded gears go down there. Put that off to the side. Now this comes off. It's going to kind of grab because there's a magnet inside here. Okay? Put that off to the side. Here's the tube I was talking about. This also comes out. Put that off to the side. Now this part is basically as far as I can get, except for the dials. So now I'm going to give you an explanation of how I zeroed out the speedometer. If you look on the number 3 here, there is a wide slot. On these gears, there's a wide slot. To get the zeros to line up in the front here like this, like so, I had the zeros in the top, and basically the 3s were right here in a 90-degree angle. And then what I did is I pushed this rod right here in so that this whole assembly was out like this. And then it took me, I'm not lying, it took me 25-30 minutes to get to do this, because this faceplate kept flopping around and hitting this and moving them, and then you get one lined up and then the other one moves, and it's frustrating. But if you keep at it, you'll figure it out on exactly how to hold it and how to put this gear and drop it right in on the wide slots here for the wide teeth on the gear, all on the 3s, and then your 0s will line up. So once you get it in there, then you have to hold it and push this rod. See that rod? Back into here. And then you're good to go. It'll move a little bit once you're done, but it wasn't too bad. It was just kind of frustrating when you're trying to line it all up, because there's a lot of moving parts. Now back to this. Back to the needle nose. You need to grab this little brass gear, and there's not a whole lot of meat on the outside, and you can see by grabbing that gear with these, it left some marks on the outside of it. It was not fun getting this out. But if you grab it good enough and you twist it, it will work itself off. There you go. Medium-sized screwdriver. This little bolt right here, this is a separate piece. That comes out. There's your bolt. There's a little cover. This also has the tabs in here stuck, so I gotta straighten those out. Alright, so you get your little tabs lined up straight in here with your needle nose. And this little gear right here, you can gently push on it. And it comes right out. Now that we have our tabs straightened out already here, we should just be able to gently pry on this little keeper here, and this magnet with the worm gear on it will slide out. And you can see she's pretty crusty. So it goes in like that, and just to take this apart and clean it and everything, it comes off like so. Put those off to the side, and there you go. You're down to the nitty gritty here. Now that we're down to our basic parts here, I'm going to clean everything up. So before I clean everything up, I forgot something. I need to paint this so it can dry. Clean hands. And I'm gently rubbing on this. I'm barely putting any pressure on it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna paint just past where it turns from yellow to white, because that's all we really need to paint. So I'll let that dry off real quick, and then we'll paint it up. All right. We still have fluid. Stuff that's been sitting for a year. Shaking. Now I don't have any itsy bitsy little paint brushes, so I'm just going to roll up a paper towel. Dip it in here. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, and then I'll hit it again. Brass wire brush, good as new. I would suggest if you paint this to occasionally, you can see it starts to stick. Occasionally start to move it a little around if you use Q-tips, just to make sure it doesn't stick on the bottom, because it started drying to it. No biggie, just keep an eye on it. I have our parts soaking in a cap here. Don't throw your caps away. This is exactly what I use them for. Little carb cleaner in there. Start getting that gunk off all the hardware and the little pieces. And you use it to dip this in here. And clean stuff off. I just noticed there's a little rubber thing on here. Or plastic. I'm going to gently work that off of there, because what I'm probably going to do is soak this down a little carb cleaner and then hit it with the brass wire brush very, very gently. Alright, there's another piece I didn't even realize was there. Nice and clean. Ready for some new grease. One thing I would suggest is, if you're going to do this project, set aside some time. These little intricate pieces need attention, and it takes longer than you think, especially reassembling. And I'm not even adding in the fact that you have to put the gels in there. That's a whole nother task in itself. If you're going to paint stuff, paint it. But another suggestion is take pictures, video it yourself. Don't start this project and then walk away from it for a week. You'll never remember where everything goes, or you're going to struggle to put it back together. One of those ask me how I know things. The first time I did my Speedo, I took it apart and then I realized I needed the gels. And I don't remember if I had to order another needle or not. I had to wait for parts. And when I went to put it back together, oh boy. Memory not so good. Alright. I am going to clean up these threads. Clean these with some Q-tips with maybe a little bit of purple power on them. I'm not going to put carb cleaner or brake cleaner on these. I think these are the Bakelite, and I don't know what that's going to do to this stuff, so I'm going to be very careful with these pieces, and then I'll be back. So this thing's coming really clean. I'm just barely, 2 fingers, just barely rubbing on this, and it's coming super clean, and it's not scarring it all up. I took this and I barely used the teeth. Super gentle, getting the grease out of all these little crevices, because it was packed in there and it was hard. So just using the bristles on the brass wire brush just to get the grease out, not to sand on it. Just using it like a pick, and that was it. It came real clean. Looks good. So while I was wiping this thing down with some cleaner, I noticed that this is fairly loose, and there's a little rivet on here, and I was thinking maybe I can compress the rivet, because it does kind of stick out of here a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is give it a little squeeze. If it sticks, then fine. But I'm thinking maybe the better option would be to throw a little solder on that. That might be the reason that this thing got abandoned, because if that shakes around, it might have been a flickering light. See how loose it is? So I'm going to have to fix that before this thing goes back together. Give our needle a little bump here. There we go. Keep moving on. I'm not going to be able to compress that because the Bakelite, plastic or Bakelite or whatever this is sticks up right here a little bit. I tried putting this on here like so, and then gave it a little squeeze from here, making sure that I wasn't touching any of this when I compressed it, and it didn't make any difference. So I'm going to clean up these terminals with a little bit of sandpaper, and then I'm gonna put a little flux in there and hit it with the soldering gun. Well, when I started this project, I definitely did not think I would be soldering. But here we go. I sanded in there as much as I could. I'm gonna dump a little bit in here. Trying to get those bristles with the flux in there a little bit. Alright. Clean off where we don't want the solder to go. I hope it doesn't melt this thing. It did something. It's not moving no more. I had to run it on the wire wheel and get some of that white corrosion off of it. Cleaned it up pretty good. Rolled up some sandpaper. Get it in these little ports for the lights. Nice. Much better. Okay. So now I'm going to clean up these few pieces and screws and stuff. I did a second coat on the needle. It looks good. So happy with that. This is all clean. This is soldered. Like I said, it doesn't look pretty, but it doesn't move no more. I'm going to put this back on. Rubber thingies back on there. Throw this in here too. Alright, I'm going to clean up this little bit of stuff here, and then we can, oh jeez, I completely forgot. Gotta clean up the glass. Man, that's crusty. Dirty. But wondering what I'm gonna do here. This looks like it really needs to be completely redone. Yeah. Yeah. That needs to be sanded. That paint is super thin. And I don't think I have any flat black. So I'll clean this up. Alright, change of plans. I hit it with the wire wheel and it had rust on it, and I needed to basically take it all the way down to metal. And I'm not going to let this thing sit in the garage because it's humid and cold, and I have the garage heated up already. So we're going to do exactly what they did when they made this. They're going to spray it with a super light coat of etching primer, and then hit it with this stuff. It's black. So I do have a little bit. So let's get to it. Tell you what, I did not expect this project to be this involved. I'm soldering, I'm painting. I thought I was going to be taking it back apart, put it back together with some grease, and you're good to go. Not the case. That's probably more than they ever put on there from the factory. So I'm going to let that dry. Dust it with some black. Or no, flip it over first. Spray it on the other side. Dust it with some black. And that should be good to go. In the meantime, I'm waiting for that to dry. I can clean this stuff up. Those got a little rust on them too. Probably hit on the wire wheel real quick. It's getting late. I can't talk anymore. Okay, to the wire wheel we go. Alrighty then, all of the hardware is nice and clean now. All our pieces are clean. Now it's time for the glass. Oh, in the meantime, I also put another little coat of the orange on there because the very top of the pyramid on the needle was showing white. So I put another quick little coat on there. I flipped the bezel for this over and I sprayed it with the etching primer. Oh, you know what? When I was describing this before, I wonder if this is supposed to be one gasket. It's splitting. Yeah, it looks like originally it might have, well, I don't know. It might have been one glued to the other. Whatever. So our glass is kind of filthy. So I'm going to clean this up the best I can, and then I'm going to show how many horrible gouges it's got in it. I did buy, when I did my other Speedo, I did buy glass. I'll see if I can find the guy or the link. There are people out there that still cut it for you, and they'll send it to you. Because I think it was the plastic glass. This sounds like real glass. Feels like real glass. I don't know. But when I did my 70s Speedo, it was like a plastic composite of some kind, and it had check marks in it from the sun, and it was literally cracked all the way through, and it was garbage. So I ordered the glass for it. It's in the car now, and let's see how this comes out. Yeah, this side is smooth, and this side has like a film to it. Hoping it's just dirt. Let's do a little tiny corner with some carb cleaner and see what happens. Do this rusty part right here. I'm testing on the outside because that bezel that I'm painting covers like the first quarter inch of this. Oh, that's taking it off. Good deal. Okay, that's about as clean as we're gonna get it. Definitely looks better. It's got a couple Scratches right here and right here. Really nothing I can do about it. You can actually hear it. Here's what it is. 60-something-year-old Speedo. Giving her new life. A little bit of carb cleaner and some elbow grease. And she shines right up. Takes that white haze off of everything. Much better. Okay, it's gel time. I got this from Wolfsburg West. And my advice to you is when you cut these to go on here, double them up. When I put them in there the first time, when they lit up, you could barely see the color. So we'll go right about there. Basically cutting this gel in half. I'm going to cut this in half too. Oh boy, scissors are not the greatest. Come on. I'm going to double these up. I'll lay them on there like that. Take a little bit of RTV. Oh boy, am I plugged? Oh, I sure am. I'm all plugged up, man. Word of advice, put a rag down because of that little plastic stop for your needle. And don't press down on this too hard. And there you go. There's your new gel. Wipe my hands off real quick. Cut the red one. Leave yourself a little extra because you don't want this stuff getting in the hole, the whatever you use to seal it down. When I did my other one, the first time I did it, the glue that I used squeezed into the hole and you could see a little round glue showing through the other side. Not a big deal, but it kind of ticked me off after all the work I did. So there you go. You got your green for your directionals, your green for your generator. I'm sorry. Did I do this wrong? I did this wrong. Yeah, duh. I did this wrong. I made a mistake. Easily fixable. Take this off. Make sure there's no glue on the face of it or sealant. Oh, it's getting away from me. Do the old switcheroo. clean up the gel after you're done before the sealant starts to dry. And it should look good. Much better. Okay. A little bit still right here. Good to go. Oh, I forgot to give my needle a bump. Did it stick to it? Yep, a little bit. Okay, the needle's not completely dry, but it's getting there. So the needle's drying. The faceplate bezel is drying. Let's go take a look at that and see how that's turning out. Oh, nice. Nice flat black. Oh, I dropped you. Did that hurt? Alright, that's pretty much done. What a world of difference. That thing looks awesome now. So we're going to let that sit there and dry. I did not paint the back black. I left it just like VDO did back in the day. It just has a little bit of the green etching primer on it. Oh yeah, I also cleaned these gaskets with some glass cleaner. So all that stuff is ready to go. I just want to make sure that that's dry and that's dry before I start putting all this back together. So it's been another late night and we will continue tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day. I'm back out in the garage. Bezel came out really nice. Looks great. That's ready to rock. Needle is good and dry. Nice and orange. Good to go. So the first thing we're going to put together is this. Got some lithium grease. I'm going to grease everything up. And then our gears. Pre-lube those a bit. Alright. Shaft here. First thing we got to put in here is this collar. This magnet, whatever you want to call it. And the collar. We're going to put this little sleeve, this keeper on here, and then slide it over the collar like that. And we'll put this in here. And she drops right in. Okay. Now this little gear slides right in there. That should be that. And you can see that gear is slowly turning. Okay. Now with that out of the way, we're going to push on this magnet a little bit. And then take our tabs here and twist. And that will lock it in place. that part's done, and she spins nice. Little cover plate. Medium sized screwdriver. Tightens this down. Okay, we got to do the tab thing again. These tabs here and here need to go through the slots here and here. I believe it goes on this way. And then when we're doing that, we also have to put this gear in. This little gear goes in here, and here, and that squeezes together. Alright, I can see the bottom of this little gear is all the way seated. See, it's turn this, it's starting to move these dials. Okay. Now, being very gentle, of course, but squeezing this together, I need to bend these tabs. Man, this is tough. There we go. There we go. Well, we could use a little more. There. Okay. That is now together. Now I can put our little brass thing in here. Yep, there you go. This goes on here like so. Gave me fits last time. Let's see if I can get it lined up this time. So there's our little light, there's our tube. Probably can't see that very well. You know what, I'm going to pull this back. See if I can steer it on here first. There's probably a trick to this that I don't know. Oh, almost fell right on. Alright, here we go. So I have a little pressure on this holding it, and this is how I did it last time. I stuck a screwdriver in here and I kind of swirled it around till that little tube dropped on there. Very close. There we go. I think we're on. Don't like touching this thing. Yep, we're on. As long as you can see that the back of that housing right up against the back of here, so you can put your screws in. You should be good to go. Start those screws. Okay, now time tiny screwdriver. Tiny little screws. Put our bulb holder back in here. Uh-oh. What am I doing wrong? Ah. The tube was holding me up. I didn't squish it all the way down. There we go. Okay. That's that. Put our bulbs back in here. Now, before we go any further, I do see a couple fingerprints on there. I don't know if you can see that or not. That needs to come off there, so. Towel. Put a glass cleaner. You put our needle back on here. Pointy side obviously goes toward you. And this has a little notch in it. There we go. I'm going to pull this back just a little tiny bit. There we go. And that should do it. Just got to put the glass on. Another thing we need to make sure is clean. Now let's pair these two. These little notches go over this and this. And there we go. She popped back on. Now all I got to do is squeeze this back down a little bit on the outside. Push my little bends over. And that's it. Now if you have an old Speedo cable, you can stick it in here and spin this. But you can see it's trying to move, but I can't go fast enough. You put your drill on low, you put the end of a Speedo cable on there and just spin it and she'll do her thing. And that's it for our 1963 VDO 90 mile an hour speedometer. And as a side note, just wanted to mention, I don't know if all speedometers are like this or not, but I love how it goes 0 to 70 and then it goes 0806. Is that so when you're driving you don't tilt your head all the way over and get in a wreck? Comment, let me know. Why is that like that? Or did I just never notice that my entire life? Alright. Okay, that's it for me tonight. Have a great night, everyone.